Ahoy makers, and happy spring! For this Makery craft, we're making a decorative spring garland with felt that we cut out on the Cricut machine. Overall, we're going to do this in 4 steps. First, we'll set up our design in Cricut Design Space. Second, we'll actually cut out the felt. Third, we'll remove all that extra felt. And then fourth, we'll assemble everything with some hot glue and some twine. Before we dive into step 1, let's just take a look at the materials that we'll need for this craft. First, we'll need a laptop with a mouse, and then we'll also need the Cricut Maker 3 with some felt mats, and maybe some Cricut tools that will come in handy later on. We'll also need our felt, 3 or 4 sheets in different colors, some twine, and a hot glue gun. And also, let's get a silicone mat for that glue gun to keep our table safe. Then if you're doing the bunny option, make sure you've got some of these for those adorable little bunny tails. All right, step 1, let's set up the design. So first, plug in the Cricut to power, and then plug it into the laptop with the USB cable. You can go ahead and turn the Cricut on with the power button on top. And then we'll go over to the computer to open up Cricut Design Space. For this craft, you don't need to log in. We've got everything already set up for you. Just double-click on the green and white Cricut Design Space logo. And in the upper right, click on My Projects. Then over on the left, one click on Makery Craft. This will show you the 2 options for this craft, either the flowers or the bunnies and eggs. I'm going to choose flowers for this one. Once you make your choice, just go down and click on Make It. This will take just a moment to load, but then you don't need to make any changes. Everything's already laid out for you. You'll see all the shapes are separated out into the different mats. Don't worry about the color coding. The colors of felt that you chose are the colors your project will be. When you're ready to continue, go down to the right corner and click the green Continue button. The Cricut will take just a moment to connect, and then just click Felt for our fabric. And once you see this screen, you're ready for our next step. In step 2, we'll cut out the shapes. First, take your fabric and place it on the pink mat. Put it in the upper left corner right up against those white lines. And make sure it's sideways just like this. Flatten it out, and then use this roller tool to smooth out any wrinkles or air bubbles. This will also help it stick to the mat. Then we'll go on over to the Cricut machine. Slide the mat in underneath those white tabs. Then press the blinking button here to load the mat in. After that, just press play, and the Cricut will take it from here. It'll take a few minutes to cut each sheet of felt, and you'll have to repeat this process for all 3 or 4 colors. Once the Cricut's all done, that button will start to blink again. Just press it once and that will unload the mat, and you can move on to the next one. In our next step, once you've cut out all your shapes from all your felt, we'll pull off all that extra felt from the mat, and that should come off pretty easily. Once you start to peel your shapes up from the mat, make sure you keep all those tiny little circles. We'll need those too. Once you've got everything all cut out, we'll give you this little plastic bin. Let's put all your shapes in there because it can be pretty easy to lose track of this as your workspace gets a little bit cluttered. And before we move on to the last step, we'll need to cut some twine. We'll need about 6 feet of twine, a color of your choice. And conveniently, that's about the same length as one of our tables. So measure that out and cut it. Now onto our last step, we'll put it all together. So let's plug in our hot glue gun. And if yours has a power switch, make sure you turn on that power switch as well. Then we'll set that aside to warm up, and we'll take a look at our flowers. So I'm going to alternate my colors, and I'm going to offset them a little bit so that I can see all the petals once it's all put together. Then we'll top it off with one of those tiny little circles. And now that our hot glue is warmed up, let's start putting this all together. So I'll start by putting a little dab of glue around the circle on that bottom flower. And then we'll glue all of our flowers together first before we attach them to the twine. So as you go along, make sure you're doing a little offset on all the flowers to make sure all the petals are visible. Then after you glue on that small circle at the end, just press straight down on it. That will press that small circle through all the holes in the lower flowers and give it kind of a 3D appearance as they start to pop out. As you're going, you'll notice your flowers might get stuck to the silicone mat. That's okay. So the glue will dry really quickly. Just pick it up, pop it right off of that silicone mat. That's just what that mat's for. You might find it helpful to grab a little dowel rod or a pencil or paintbrush, anything like this, just to sort of twist off all of those extra stringy bits of hot glue. For me, hot glue is always kind of a mess. Now that all of our flowers are assembled, I'll just lay them out and take a look. And I've got an odd number to work with, which means I can have one in the center with the same amount on either side. So let's start with our twine. I'm just going to put the ends together so I can find the middle, and that's where I'm going to place my first flower. And then I'll build outward from there. So I'll lay my twine flat, and on the back of my middle flower, I'll place a dab of glue on 2 of the petals. And make sure to do it on 2 so that your flowers stay straight when your garland hangs. So just a little dab of glue, then put it face down, attach the twine to the back, flip it over, then press it into the silicone mat. So just like before, we'll press down into the mat. It'll get stuck to the mat, but that's okay. It'll pop right loose, and then your glue is dry and you're ready to move on to the next one. Then I find about 6 or 7 inches in between each flower is just right. So I'll move over to my next spot and repeat the same process. So a little dab of glue on 2 of the petals. And as you're going, make sure you don't twist your twine up too much. If the twine gets twisted, then some of your flowers might hang sideways or they might hang backwards. So as you're going, feel free just to hold it up and make sure everything looks good. And there we are. Here is our decorative spring garland. Thanks so much for participating in this month's Makery craft, and we'll see you next time.